All right, hello and welcome everyone to the second volume of ScriptChat. Can you guys believe it already? We've done an entire volume of ScriptChat, 15 episodes last season, I should call it, which was really just ended about a month ago and started probably four and a half months ago or something like that. So we have a little bit more organized of a schedule this time. We've got an actual link where people can go and sign up to be on the ScriptChat schedule. If that's something that you're interested in, you've got something that you want to show and tell about, let me know, because we're here for that. That's why this show exists, is for map scripters to talk about their stuff, get a little bit more recognition for the hard work that they do, because right now it really seems like the only time a map scripter gets recognized for their work is if it's selected for play in some high-level competition. But only a small fraction of the maps that are ever made are selected for that. It's very competitive, the map making process as well. So I think we're going to try to do 20 episodes this season. We'll see how it goes. I might cut it short if we run low on content, or if there's like some big chunk of time where I can't do ScriptChat. My sister is visiting in the summer, but I think we should be fine. I think that's pretty far out. So we're on our first episode of ScriptChat here. And what's the big news in the random map scripting community right now? Well, the big news in the random map scripting community is actually Neely's Apartment Cup. It's the fourth version of such a tournament. I guess it's some big LAN party that they do in Germany, and Neely invites most of his friends, most of the folks that play Age of Empires at a high level, and maybe some other people go too, just because they're huge fanboys, and that's great too. And they do an old school LAN party, old fashioned LAN party, where they're sitting in a call center right next to each other, computers side by side, playing Age of Empires against each other, try not to lean over and screen peek, see what the other guy is doing. You guys remember setting that up? Oh man, I remember having LAN parties. It wasn't Age of Empires though, it was Age of Mythology. We'd get all the guys set up, and it just so happened that we happened to have extra computers, like a couple of extra laptops and such, and we had the CD version of Age of Mythology. And at the time, it was kind of state of the art, but it was like a couple of years later, and this is when you could actually like make stuff work even a few years later. And so we were lucky enough that all you needed to do was insert the CD for Age of Mythology and boot up the game. And once the game was booted up, it would play out normally. The multiplayer for Age of Empires 2 never worked, unfortunately. They've come a long, long way in making that work, actually. It's really quite impressive how people were able to keep the game alive while the multiplayer for Age of Empires 2 was so terrible when it first came out. But anyway, we'd get the guys all in this room, and we'd set up Age of Mythology, and we'd do the different teams, and we'd have food and snacks and Age of Mythology going all day. People would be giving each other crap for invading each other's towns and taking settlements and slaughtering each other's livestock and myth units and Titan gates. Oh man, those were the days. It was just so much fun. But they're doing the same thing, but with Age of Empires, which is the game that we're all familiar with and what unites this community. So Neely's Apartment Cup, they actually have not announced a map pool for it, but what they have announced is that they are going to have a map contest, and the winning map will get $300 and will be featured in Neely's Apartment Cup 4. They are doing something a little bit different, where they're making it so that the starts are 9 villager starts, generally speaking. It's designed to simulate the conditions 2.5 minutes into the game. So that should help speed things up a little bit. They're always so worried that like people are going to click away in Dark Age. I don't know. They probably got some data or some statistics, some video analytics that show that if people are there past 2.5 minutes, they're going to stay for the whole thing or something like that. But that is the one criticism I've heard about Age of Empires over the years, is it just doesn't start fast enough. But I think they're going to be able to make it work either way. It's actually kind of cool that we can recreate what the game is like 2.5 minutes in. But anyway, so that was a new requirement that was added for the scripts. A lot of the scripts integrated that directly. Some of them said, I know I said I'm going to integrate this if you choose my map, but this is no problem. I'll get this mixed in for you, added in, I should say. So other than that, the maps have to be like hippo themed in some way. You got to think about hippos when you're looking at the map, when the maps are being judged. And this map contest, they really seemed to try to incorporate feedback that they'd gotten from previous contests, which I really appreciated, because I had complained in previous contests, like, I can make you anything you want, I just don't know what you want. So I'd have some masterwork map that would mysteriously end up at the bottom of a list and make me look bad somewhere, when some very simple changes could have made that map a lot more viable, a lot closer to what they were looking for. I wasn't so upset, about like, oh, you got me, my gold wasn't balanced, or oh, you got me, a tower rush is the meta on this map. It was just like not understanding what they wanted. So they've done a much better job of defining those requirements, and even though it's been a really busy time of the year for me, we've got a lot of fun things going. We're trying to put together a tournament for the return of the Rising Eagle Cup with Greek-themed maps, and we got to remake our clan and get charter all written up for that. And Q Philip and I are working on some scripting analytics tools to like actually analyze the output of random map scripts. So we've got a lot of great projects going on right now, but it was very obvious that the guys that are running Nilly's Apartment Cup 4 really wanted to incorporate feedback that we gave, even though they probably didn't have to, just because it was the right thing to do. They listened, and I really appreciated that. So even I submitted for this Nilly's Apartment Cup 4, even though it's always, there's always a lot of tough competition, and even though they say only one map is going to be selected. Although I'm kind of suspicious that they're only going to select one. I think maybe they might select additional maps. I don't know if they get enough good, because they just, you never know what you're going to get for the contest, right? Sometimes you get a ton of great submissions, and sometimes the scripters just miss the mark. They don't exactly, they don't have time, or the people that happen to notice it just weren't able to get something together in time, so they just don't have as many good options to choose from. So I think they've said they're, at the very least, they're going to take one, and I think that's a safe bet that they're going to find, in the amount of time and for the amount of visibility that the contest had, they're going to find at least one that's going to work for them, and then they will fill in the rest of the maps from like standard maps, so they say. But having said that, we've still gotten, I think I counted, it was 11 as of yesterday. It was 11 really cool looking map scripts. And for a lot of the folks that don't know, like, a map scripting contest is not, it's not a purely subjective thing, and it's not fully objective either. It's a combination of the two. So basically what happens is they look at the maps, and they basically say, okay, we're going to take all the forest nothings and all of the water wars and all of these weird maps that are not really what we're looking for. They might be great maps, they might be fun to play as a community, but we're going to take some maps out that don't meet our standards for, like, this is what we need, right? We don't need Forest Nothing as an example. I pick on Forest Nothing all the time. It's a great map, right? It's a really misunderstood map. But with Forest Nothing, there's only really one kind of strategy that's available, and that is basically boom, go into Imperial Age. I mean, you might be able to choose Chimera and cut through the forest with scorpions or whatever. It would take forever. Point is on a map like Arabia, or a map like Arena, or a map like Hideout, you've got different options, right? You can go Fast Castle, you can go Man-at-Arms plus Towers, maybe. You could go Archers, you could go Scouts. On Arena, you could go Monks. You could go Fast Imp. You could do a variety of different things. And ultimately, that strategic variety is what makes the games fun, because you can't predict what's going to happen. When the viewers can predict what's going to happen, they don't watch, right? It's boring. So you want to try to get the best viewership, because you get the most advertisement revenue or whatever that way. And that means that they push it down, and it all comes down to the map itself being a theater for a variety of different strategies and ideas, and not necessarily like a civ win in certain situations. So there are technical components that maybe we can't really measure because we don't really have analytics together for random map scripts yet. I'm working on it. But there are technical components behind random map scripts, and in a future episode we might go into greater detail about that. But there's technical things that map scripts just need to have in order to work in competitive play. And then, assuming that the maps have those things, then you can talk about, oh, it looks nice, or it seems really original. All of those other factors, those more subjective factors about what you find pleasing about the map. So we have, and I appreciate you indulging my long introduction. You can tell I've been excited to get back to ScriptChat. I'm excited to see Zerg here. Welcome, Zerg. We have brought in an expert in 1v1 Age of Empires play because these are the sorts of folks who have a good feel of like how to win, right? How could you exploit something on a map? What kind of strategies are viable in certain situations? It is not a coincidence that many of the guys that win these random map scripting contests have an average elo that's 300 or 400 higher than the player base at large. It's because the higher elo you are, the better you know how to win, right? The more likely you are to see exploits in certain maps, or what a map, what resource distributions might lead to certain strategies. So we went out and we found the toughest guy we could, Ray, and he is going to be a guest Ray on the show today, and we're going to go through Nilly's Apartment Cup maps with Ray. And Ray's going to help us break them down and understand the kind of strategies that could be viable on them. Talk about the competitiveness of the maps. We might talk a little. I might say something in my noobish way like, "Oh, this map looks nice," but really we're going to be asking a subject matter expert. And we're lucky enough to know a few guys at the 18, 1900, maybe even 2K level. Probably the one that you guys know the best is Smokey. But I didn't want to have Smokey on the show, even though I play with him all the time, just because I was worried he would never shut up and I wouldn't be able to get a word in. So we got Ray here instead. And I need to do a little bit more with Ray anyway. He's a super nice guy, and I will link his Twitch channel in the description of the video. So without further ado, everybody say hello to Ray. Ray, welcome. You're on ScriptChat. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Doug. That's been, I think you overhyped my qualifications a little bit, but I guess that's what you're supposed to do as the as the interviewer.
Absolutely, Ray. So
Uh,
were you able to get the scripts all
yeah,
downloaded and in your folder? Okay.
yeah. And while you were talking, I was kind of looking over them a couple times. I just had a couple questions. That you mentioned only one map is going to be selected out of these, right?
That's
What
what
are
they've publicly
Oops.
committed to, selecting only one map among all of them.
uh, what are the other maps that are currently already in the tournament?
They have not announced
I see.
it.
Interesting.
So
So
yeah,
if
that's
let's
why
say
I'm suspicious about it. We'll see.
if we knew some of the other maps, maybe we could kind of see what they were going for, and what's like the general theme of the map or the general idea of the map that they were going for. Maybe they have like four open maps, and maybe they won't want like an arena sort of map, or I don't know, something different. Maybe Nilly hates water. Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, you're right, Ray. Ideally, they would like say, they would, for a contest, would make a lot of sense to say, okay, we want kind of an arena themed hippo map, and we want kind of a hideout themed hippo map, and we want an Arabia themed hippo map. But they, on the other hand, they don't like to get very specific on that because they don't want to bias the map creation process. I think, or they don't want to limit the options that are available. So
Some of these look really cool in terms of like the just the way the map looks like on the mini map. Some of these are really creative.
So are you in the Nilly's Apartment Cup Discord server? Because if you were, you'd be able to see what rules they've posted already. I can invite you if you're not.
Yeah, sure. Just throw me a link.
All right,
I
one
think
sec.
I don't think I
There's
missed
a,
one.
there's a little bit of additional information there, but I will bring it up, and I was going to read it when we go through each of them. So you're basically going to have access to the same information that everybody else will. But we're gonna show them off here, and I guess we're just gonna go in whatever order I happen to have them in my drop-down menu here. I've given them all NAC4 prefix. Okay, so they're a little bit easier to find.
Yeah, I did find them pretty easy. Thanks for renaming them. I was gonna say that they did post January 6th that the tournament will feature 13 maps, and the list of maps will be published in the next few days. But I don't know if that's been the case or not.
I haven't seen it. If anybody finds it, let me know, and we'll talk about it, and we'll use that as a comparison basis for the custom maps that have been submitted. So I'm on Hippo Maw here.
Yep,
Hippo Maw created by Whistler. Important to note, we're going to go through a lot of these. Most of the folks have implemented the 6 villager start already. So although you guys see flags here, these flags actually die at the beginning of the game and spawn villagers instantly. And that was done with, that was actually developed originally from Empire Wars. Because when the Empire Wars option is selected, the only thing that the game does is it makes the villagers go and collect from the nearest resource. It actually does not change the resource distribution. The scripter has to provide a conditional in the code that says if Empire Wars, do all this other stuff. And so the villagers under the town center were going off and chopping the straggler trees. So Crazini came up with a way of getting these flags to spawn and then die and then create villagers. And because the villagers were technically created like a millisecond after the game started, they weren't automatically tasked to chopping the straggler trees. And they could just be right-clicked onto the sheep in the center. So Ray, what are your thoughts about this map? Looking at it.
So my first thought is I'm guessing that the sheep underneath the TC was one of the requirements, right? That's one of the
Yes.
differences.
Yep.
But my first thought is, what are those villagers in the corners doing? I think that's what I'm most curious about.
Oh,
Was
these
this supposed to be part of the map, or was those supposed to be not there?
the 3 villagers around the palm tree or around one of the stragglers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Besides, I see the 3 red villagers
yep.
next to Blue's base and 3 blue villagers next to Red's base. Is that supposed to be? Is that as it was intended? So is there a 9 villager start for this one?
It is a 9 villager start. Yep. So
Interesting.
you're given 6 villagers on sheep, and you're given 3 villagers on a straggler tree, chopping a straggler tree, and then you decide where you want to build your lumber camp, or if you want to go some crazy mill first strategy, you could do that too. Um, but yes, the plan is for these maps in general to have the 9 villager start.
Oh, okay. So see, I loaded up the map and I was looking at it from my point of view. And from my point of view, the 3 villagers that you see right next to the straggler tree are on the opposite corner of the map. They are. It might have bugged when I was trying to spawn it, but
Hmm.
I'm looking at your stream now, and this makes a lot more sense. Because the way it generated for me, I guess it's too hard for me to share my screen here.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
that is very
they
bizarre.
were they were on the opposite side, so it's kind of like you started with a sneak in your opponent's base, and I was thinking that's a very creative thing.
Now, when you generated it, were they like within your opponent's obvious line of sight? Were they like,
No,
within?
no,
Oh,
they
okay.
they
All right.
they
They're
were
just
hidden.
okay.
Let me just send a screenshot here because I want to see if I generated it again if this solves.
Well, if you have the seed number for that, that's actually really important.
Oh shoot! Actually, okay. It happens every other seed for me, to be honest. Maybe at the start of the game, maybe they were supposed to move, but let me just send you the screenshot. Do you see how in the corner there's 3 villagers every time? And I'm wondering if that's a bug or a feature.
Oh, that is. I do see this. Let me.
They just hit test to see if this is actually how they spawn. Because maybe there's some weird trigger or something. Nope, that's how they spawn.
Yeah. So we're gonna share this on the stream here. So this is what Ray is seeing, and Ray is getting confused by this. So Do the three villagers appear next to the straggler trees in the player towns as well?
No, no. So those are the three
Hmm.
that would have been next to the straggler tree at the town.
Hmm.
Let me remember this.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to send Whistler a message here after the stream, or if you go on a very long um, oration
Mm-hmm.
about a topic that you feel passionate about, just to let him know about this, because I don't think that this is intended. It's kind of funny.
I
Um,
think maybe what was happening is it was like a three-player map size. Because now that I'm doing it again, I'm never getting the same problem.
oh, you don't get it on the two-player map size at all. Well, actually, you
This
got it
it
once. You
says
sent me a
it says
screenshot of the
two-player.
two-player.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
just hit
whatever. It looks
generate.
it looks fine now. Whenever I do it now, all I was gonna say about this map, it's pretty interesting, pretty balanced. I see that there's two rhinos, right? And there's two sheep missing, or four sheep missing, I guess, from the regular start. But that's because you already start with six villagers, so you don't need as much food.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's very Acropolis E, very similar to Acropolis, I suppose, in the layout. Though I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like how the hills are not as pronounced, because the Acropolis is such a pain to push up on, and here at least there seems to be like a couple breaking points, for archers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the Acropolis comparison is a great comparison. I did not think of that, but it makes total sense. Um,
the qu- the question here is, do you duck? It looks like you have to duck, but the question is, do both players have to duck? Like back to what you were saying about single strategies working.
I
Um,
I don't know. There's too much fish not to dock, right? This looks to be
yeah,
a lot of fish. You can't let your opponent have all that food. And then if you get out here and you control the center with a dock, maybe it makes it easier. Your opponent is fighting you in this area. It makes it easier for you to come out here and take some of the gold off the hippo's tooth, which is behind it.
oh, that's a tooth. Okay, that makes so much sense now. I was
Yep.
thinking, what is this weird, what is this weird, you know, little design icon? That makes sense that it's a hippo now.
Yep.
A hippo with a mouth open.
Well, it's called the hippo maw, right?
Oh,
It's
true. I didn't
where
even read the title.
Yep,
Okay,
it's
yes.
where all the unlucky plants that the hippo consumes, it all gets shoveled into that esophagus area, which is the which is the little pond in the center.
Yeah. So I can see a mill in the middle or a dock working because you have all these zebra, and I don't know if you want to commit to fish here. Another big thing about a nine villager start is that I don't think in a nine villager start fish are going to be as effective. They're still maybe like 90% as effective. But the reason for that is I believe you'll need to, it will take you longer than regular to get a dock working in proportion to how many villagers you have.
Yep,
So,
you'll have
yeah.
more villagers working while the dock is getting up being built. So it might make the dock less attractive actually with the nine villager start.
Which is a good thing. I think that's one of the reasons that people hate water maps, hate pure water maps so much because one person could get on water, win water, and then just steamroll. But here, whoever made this map knew to not include too many deep fish. And it's interesting. I wonder if we'll see fights over these zebra in the middle. Because think about it this way: you send like four villagers to make a dock. Those four villagers could hunt the zebra and bring food in through, you know, through the dock essentially, through reselecting the dock.
Oh, you mean they harvest and they collect all the meat from a zebra and then they build the
Yeah.
dock and they drop it off
No,
automatically?
no, no. You built the dock, kill a zebra, and then right click to shorefish. I mean, collect all the food from the zebra, then right click to shorefish, and then deposit all the food in the dock.
Oh, I did
So
not know that you could do that trick. That's a neat trick.
yeah,
I know that they
it's
changed it in DE to where the food types are now all the same. Like if you were collecting sheep and you accidentally right clicked your boar, they would drop all their sheep meat because boar meat was different than sheep meat. I didn't realize that zebra meat was the same as fish meat.
they're all basically when you right click the zebra to or a hunter to a shorefish, she becomes like a fisherman or whatever they call it. and then they're able to they touch the shorefish once, and then they run to the dock to drop it off. But they drop off all 35. You know, it doesn't go to 10 or anything like that. So it's just a
Nice.
little bit tedious of micro though, because now you have to right click every single zebra and make sure the villagers don't run back to your TC at 35 food. You have to right click the dock every time.
So
But
to me, it looks like this map screams scouts. I don't know. Maybe
yeah,
folks will go archers because there's a little bit of a contest over the middle. But this seems like a map where scouts and maybe a couple spearmen run and they fight over the dock in the middle. Maybe somebody towers somebody else's dock. I don't know. What are your thoughts about the kinds of strategies we could see here?
I think we're gonna see full walls for the most part because the way the wood's set up, or at least full wall for a player that's not going for mid. Um, but maybe everybody goes for mid here. Either way, this is a very low investment to wall, at least the map generation that I'm looking at.
Okay.
But the one thing I do see that's kind of a little funky is that sometimes gold seems to spawn, even your small golds seem to spawn outside of or pretty far away from your TC. And if you're walling, you don't want the gold to be part of your wall, right? You want the gold to be inside your wall so that it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
get hit by archers. So that might be something that full walling people will struggle with. But yeah, this I like archers here too, but scouts, if you control the middle, or partly control the middle, going scouts I think will be really strong here because of the insane amount of food you get from the 4 extra zebra and the shorefish and the deep fish and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think both can work. I think what probably we won't see a lot of. I think I can even see militia working here because militia can harass whatever villagers come to the middle if somebody does try to collect these zebra in the middle with a dock. What I was saying before, I think militia can work pretty well there as well. Uh, but you don't see a lot of militia on water maps or maps with like where you have to control water because if you go militia, then you're gonna take forever to get to feudal, and your opponent can just fish everything out. Yeah, really cool map. Who made this one?
The Whistler.
The
I don't
Whistler.
actually know. I don't know much about him actually. So I gotta find out more about him. But yeah, neat concept. It looks like the hippo's maw I can say was painted with a large number of create land commands, and he was able to fit the players kind of in this opening between the two halves of the hippo's jaw here. Um, so that is one disadvantage about the map, um, is that the player start is static. But I do like that he's expanded on kind of the concepts of Acropolis, and he's got some zebra next to a lot of fish in the center.
I think I have found a slight bug in my version too. You see how every single tooth I think is supposed to have 2 golds and a stone? I believe if the stone doesn't fit sometimes, it just doesn't spawn. Not a huge deal, but
Hmm.
I potentially. That's the way it is for you too, right? The
Yep,
three golds and a stone. Okay.
two
So
golds. Yeah.
sometimes the stone does not fit into the land. I think. At least my generation right now, I'm seeing that. I guess I'll screenshot this and send you the just so you have the seed as well.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, cool map. You want to go to the
Yep.
next one? Take us to the next one.
So the next one I have on the list here is Hippo Regis version
Yeah,
1. It was made by the Mad Catter. It is a visually
yeah.
nice map. Chris
Love
is
his
right.
maps.
Welcome, Seabass. Yeah, the Mad Catter's pretty good. Um, so here we go. So the Mad Catter wrote of Hippo Regis. Here we go. He says it's based on the ruins of the ancient Roman city in North Africa. The surrounding ruins are overgrowing with vegetation. Wood on this map is plentiful but patchy, so walling can be tricky, And the foundations of ruined buildings leave behind gold and stone deposits, which players will need to mine when their close resources run out. These are not easy to defend, and he made this map, it's never been used before. So what do we think?
I think that it's gonna suck to be collecting that gold because this is very archer friendly downhill.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one of the reasons that he put stone and gold together is that if you're getting sick of getting archered, maybe it's pretty easy to build a tower and collect 25 stone for your extra TCs later anyway. I just want to see on that terrain at the bottom um, of the hills, like can you place a mining camp anywhere on that hill? Or is it going to be
Let's
at the
see.
very bottom of it?
You should be able to because it's the Mad Catter and stuff like that doesn't usually catch him by surprise. Let's see. Can you build a mill down here? No. But you should be able to build a mining camp. He's probably enabled it so that mining camps can be built down there. Maybe I can't build a mining camp down there. I should be able to in skirmish mode. I would have a hard time believing that you wouldn't be able to build a mining camp down there.
I just went skirmish mode and I'm trying to find a single one. Okay.
I was under the impression that you could, because I'm sure that in the script somewhere the Mad Catter has changed the terrain restrictions of mining camps to allow them to be built anywhere, so that they can build a mining camp on. I know that you can do that in random map scripting, but it may not manifest in the scenario editor. Sometimes the rule changes don't show up in the scenario editor.
Gotcha. I just tried a skirmish game just to see because I could see an argument for having to like slightly long distance mine, I suppose. Okay, I'm trying right now. I can build it only on some tiles in the very like bottom of it. So on the very bottom I can build it, but I can't build it on the hilly terrain around.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking here is that he wanted there to be only one place where you could place the mining camp in some cases.
Okay.
But as it is right now, I don't think this is extremely playable because there are some spawns of gold and stone where there's just no 4x4 flat tile at the bottom.
Yeah,
So I think either this hilly terrain has to be changed, or maybe make less gold and stone spawns, so that there's more space for a mining camp at the bottom.
Yeah, or make the pits a little bit larger. I did manage to
Yeah.
squeeze one mining camp in, so maybe the rule changes are affecting me. You might be able to see from the stream. They might make him change this rock so that mining camps can be built on the rock.
Yeah,
But I
yeah, I
think he
think
had the rock there, so you couldn't like wall between, like you couldn't wall to here.
oh, true.
I
Maybe
think
some
that's
scouts
why
or
it's
something,
there. Yeah. Um,
or but I'm getting stuff like I'll just send you a Discord screenshot. I'm getting certain generations where there's just no place you can build a mining camp, and I feel like
oh,
that's it's a little bit of a mistake. With that being said, I mean the way this map is set up, there's extra golds on the flatland anyway, so I don't know how much people would even go for that bottom gold until it's later in the game. I think the idea here was to force people, instead of building safe TCs that are on gold, the idea here was to force people to have exposed gold economies, right? Even later
yeah.
on in the game, which
And
is something we don't see out too often.
you may be completely right. This may be like a late game wheelbarrow kind of gold. Like this might not be come out here in the feudal age to get a forward or something like that. It may never have been intended that you could build a mining camp down there. Um, I
You
don't
know what?
know.
You know what strategy would be pretty good here though is trushing, because if you're on your stone at the bottom, first of all, you already know where all your opponent's stones are because they you just have to find the pits. Uh, I guess there is still a safe stone for either player. I did miss that
Yep.
one. There is an extra stone, so maybe not. But this is definitely the pits are definitely a late game idea to make the late game more exciting, which I like. Sometimes people get very greedy with their TCs, and this map will punish that or not make those greedy TCs as worth it. So, pretty
Yep.
cool map.
Another thing I like about it is that the player starts are random in this case, which means that players will be rewarded for scouting more instead of pushing deer, finding where their opponent is, and perhaps knowing or have an harder time knowing what your opponent's up to, because you have to spend more time scouting him to find his buildings and his units and such. What
Yeah,
do you think about
because in
these
general,
big woods in the corner, Ray?
I don't know if we'll see players. I guess if you spawn pretty close to them, those are always static in every single corner in every single generation, from what I see. So I don't know if we'll see players go to them directly. I think you take the small woods closer to you first. But maybe actually, it kind of really depends on your generation because sometimes you get pretty close to those big woods. Sometimes I think it's just worth it to go straight for those.
Yeah,
They're pretty porous, but at the same time, it looks like it's pretty like your wood's never going to run out if you make a lumber camp there,
yeah.
and you can also lock a couple villagers in sometimes, like from one side, and make your lumber camp super efficient.
That's true. Whenever low elo legend tech chariot does this, though, the villagers always like decide to gather from a tree that's on the other side of a wall of trees nearby, and so they're
Yeah,
like trying
yeah,
to
that's.
walk all the way around to get from that tree that's 2 tiles away, but being blocked by 6 other trees.
I haven't watched enough pro games recently to see if the idea has changed. So the original idea was always to shift click your villagers on the tree behind the lumber camp if we are assuming a flat tree line, so that two villagers are chopping the two trees behind the lumber camp and the others are chopping the trees next to the lumber camp. And this way it looks very efficient. But uh, recently, with all these bumping issues that villagers have and getting stuck issues, I don't know if that's longer advised because you basically they are more efficient, but you have to babysit them for all of Dark Age and shift click them constantly to the next trees. But yeah, pretty cool looking map.
Hmm.
I like the theme.
Does anybody know in chat? Does anybody know where Hippo Regius is located? It says in North Africa, but this doesn't look like North Africa, right? This looks like jungle trees and Italian pines. It almost looks like maybe it's in the Nile Delta area. So if anybody knows, let me know because I'm kind of curious. I might go and look it up at the end of ScriptChat if I remember. Um,
We're
looks like
definitely traveling to Peru next with this Nazca Hippo map
yes.
for the third one.
So this Nazca Hippo was created by Q Philip. Okay, so
Yeah,
we've
it's a
got a
Q
big
Philip special.
stone wall. Q Philip is from Poland. I know Q Philip. He's a good guy. He's a software developer, and he's helping me with some random map script inspection programs. But he made this map, the Nazca Hippo. The Nazca lines don't contain hippos, but they could, right? So here we go. We've got this hippo looks like he's bellowing or calling out or telling other animals or other hippos to stay away. This is my territory. Think about bonus stone inside of the Nazca Hippo and some scant resources. Not a lot of hills here. Um,
Yeah, not a lot of wood lines either. This would be aggressive for the wood lines. In fact, I'm pretty sure total wood. This is probably the least wooded map that I've seen out of all of these submissions so far. Um, really good chance to run out of all your wood here.
so thoughts about strategies, Ray? Are we going to see archers? I think we're going to see scouts. This looks like a scouts map. They start in fixed positions far away from each other, and they have to go around at least this rock wall. Can you wall the Nazca Hippo? Let me check to see if you can wall the Nazca Hippo. I think you can.
I'm not a huge fan of how far away they start because this will mean that you'll see probably a lot of FC attempts or something close to it if this map gets selected.
Yeah.
Because from my point of view, this would be pretty easy to wall for either player, at least on this map generation. And because your stone is inside, you could probably get away with Drush Castle or something like that, even. Um, Simply because the positions are so far away, and this stone wall in the middle is a rock formation. It's just separating the players even further apart. It would take a while for any sort of aggression to pay off.
I'd have to ask Philip what this rock formation is for. Philip is he's a better player than I am, so he thinks about all these strategies. I got the 1300 by stonewalling and making monks, but Q Philip he actually knows scouts and archers and all that good stuff. So do you have any idea what this stonewall is about? Like, why would you want it to take longer to get from red to blue or from blue to red? Um,
I'm not a fan of the Stonewall. I think if it was not in this map script, I think it would have a higher chance of getting selected. Because as it is right now, like I don't think you can even drush on this map because by the time the drush gets to your opponent, it's like an extra minute or extra 2 minutes of the drush walking over, and everybody's gonna be full walled. And the same problem with archers. I mean, the one good thing here is that you could probably sneak a little bit easier with this wall, but even so, considering there's wolves on the map,
hmm
um, I feel like it really limits how much you can do early in the game. So, not a huge fan of the rock wall.
Yeah,
I don't know what his purpose for it could have been other than making it easier to FC.
I
If
I
this
I don't
if
know.
if this wall wasn't here, it would be a lot easier to go archers on your enemy wood line. It'd be a lot easier to go build a tower on your enemy wood line. Like think about it this way: you only have like 3 or 4 starting wood lines, and you could probably have one tower take you off 2 of those.
hmm
So this and I'm not saying go like 5 villagers tower or whatever. I'm just talking about doing like a Lix tower, the Chinese player who just sends one villager, builds a very annoying tower, just barely out of your line of sight while he's pressuring you elsewhere,
Yep.
sort of deal. And in this case, that would be devastating against a potential FC. But that can only happen if this giant rock formation is in the way.
Yeah.
Because as it is right now, the other thing is people are gonna say, oh well, it doesn't matter. It's only gonna add like 30 seconds of walking time. Sure, but it also makes it very easy to scout any sort of aggression because the only place where anything is gonna come through
Just right
is that
here.
little like right here.
Yep. Yeah, and he may have added it because the thought process was if the players are in the corner, then maybe he wanted to give them a little bit more of a buffer or isolation from that early aggression. Because if you are in the corner like this and your opponent's got archers, he only needs to occupy a quarter of that total perimeter right around your base. If your base is somewhere over here, more toward the center of the map, you have different directions you can go in to maybe try to get some more resources after your
That
front
just
ones
makes
have
it
been denied. But here you
that
don't have
that
anywhere
just
to go, so
that just makes it even more FC friendly though because it makes it even easier to wall. Normally you have to wall from like 4 sides or from 3.5 sides. Here, the walling can be very simply, done pretty easily, and that just makes it more reduces the amount of feudal aggression. And generally, I don't think um, people like maps like that, unless they're arena clouds. Simply because the later that this goes, the more it becomes a little bit of a civ matchup. If every civ can FC and can't take advantage of their feudal bonuses, then
yes.
it just becomes who has the better castle bonuses slash late game
These
advantage.
these image maps are tough. Like this map was clearly made from an image
Oh yeah,
to lands, right? There's no way that Q Philip went in there and he like put every single land in meticulously. Nobody has time for that. You scan an image, and the Siege Engineers group has a website where you can go and convert that into lands. But when you do
oh,
that, it
so
can
cool.
be it can, and then you just paste the code into your script that would generate that image
You just
on the
need a black
minimap.
and white. You just need like a black and white sort of
Yeah. There's different versions
printer.
of it that you could find, but theirs is the most. Theirs is the. I developed my own, but theirs is the most Those are the most common. But when that happens, like if you did create player lands, which is the standard command that like creates player town centers automatically
Yeah.
in DE sort of randomly, it will get confused and like it might try to put the player town centers on top of this hippo head here. And then you can't really tell that it's a hippo anymore from the Nazca lines. It
Yeah.
messes up the kind of the theming of the map that you're going with. So that means you have to put the player town centers down directly. And I
Oh, that's
think,
for fixed positions. Okay.
yeah, with fixed position. So I think it can be tough with any map like this because where's Q Philip going to put the players, right? He could put blue in this opposite corner over here, and that would
Yeah.
exacerbate the FC situation. Or maybe he could put somebody up here just above the hippo's back, but then that's really not fair because one player is tucked in the corner while the other has a lot more space. So it's just, and he could try to reduce the size of the hippo, but you can already see that like from the hippo's legs that it struggles a little bit from the resolution because it's just the game was never intended to create images like this. So
The
it's
game is
just
not supposed to be a Microsoft Paint.
a um, so it's a well we can make it Microsoft Paint in some respects, but it's
Yeah,
just
no,
it's a
it's
tough
gonna be an
position to
image
be
paint.
able to put a Nazca hippo in and have kind of a semi-competitive player start. So even though the map may have some struggles with FC, I would agree with that. Um, it's
I
not easy. It's not easy making something like this.
I think it you we could have also tried to see if he put the players on opposite sides of the hippo without this rock formation, just one guy on top, one guy at the bottom, and kind of go for a more like golden pit vibe. Uh,
Yeah,
it's not really a pit, rather, but
yeah, I get it
maybe
though.
it's
Maybe you could
yeah. I
rotate
mean,
the hippo. Yeah, maybe that could work. You have to shrink him a
the
little
position
bit, but
the positions of the golds are pretty even. I was gonna say another like challenge with these sort of image maps is that when you have all your gold spawn on a line, right? It's one player might have more golds than the other, but this looks actually pretty even in terms of how many extra golds they have. And let's be honest, this game is not probably gonna go down to extra golds if they have like 7 tiles of their own.
when I first started out, I used to make a lot of image style maps, and I could not do a standard start, so I just nomad, no player assigned resources, no real player assigned units and stuff, just three random villagers scattered around, and that was the plan. So I didn't have to worry about fairness of player starting positions because they were picking their starting positions. Um, all
Nice.
right.
The next one, Swelter. Who is
Yes.
Swelter?
Swelter is another one by the Mad Catter. I got to read about this one. Let me see here. Because the Mad Catter has some interesting mechanics for this. So it says players start in a swampy area. The swamp is too shallow to make docks in, but players can build mills to gather from the many box turtles in the map. Most resources on the map are outside the swamp, and the rocky slopes of the swamp cannot be walled. Hippos leave their droppings around the outside of the map to mark their territory. This incidentally makes the ground much more productive for farming. Villager work rate is increased by zero point 0.1 when on the mud. Villagers build buildings about 10% faster, and farmers collect about 12% faster depending on the walking time. Note that caravanserais don't work on this map, but in a 1v1 it shouldn't matter, and it's never been used before. Ray, what do you think?
This is very ambitious. I like the idea. I was gonna ask you what those squares were, but I'm guessing that's the um, caravanserai sort of, or rather the thing that makes the villagers more effective, right? The
Yes.
trigger for that. Uh, really interesting idea. Um, I would love to see, this sort of map more in competitive play and see people take advantage of these bonuses. Really cool concept for sure. And Emu, no, none of these were my maps. This is just maps that were submitted to NAC4. Emu Warrior is
Yep.
asking.
Yeah. So these light blue boxes here are essentially like some kind of I think Gaia controlled caravanserai unit. or invisible building or something like that, and he's actually modified. He's used random map scripting to modify Caravanserai to have other effects. Like you can modify the resources and mechanics associated with Caravanserai to do other things. And in this case, they're improving villager work rate um, instead of trade cart work rate. And he's placed them in a ring around the players. What kind of strategies are we going to see on this if this is played, do you think, Ray?
Yeah, I think everything is going to come down to shorefish control. As cool as this mud, this poop-covered mud is from the hippos, I don't think it'll play a big role because to get out here, this might be a place for like second TCs and third TCs, but I think the main fight is going to be over the middle, um, with all the shorefish here, and either I don't know men at arm towers. Honestly, would probably be pretty strong, or just towers in general, just to control the middle
Mm-hmm.
shorefish. As it is here, like pretty much one tower prevents your opponent from coming out to a lot of these shorefish, since they're both a little bit in a they spawn in the hippo years, I suppose, or I don't know if that's supposed to be a hippo.
Yeah, there's no hippo. There's no hippo unit in the game, unfortunately, to use. Um, so the interesting thing though is that these stones are outside of the unwallable area, so you can't really secure this stone very easily unless you build your
Yeah.
own tower on it and maybe palisade to the forest or something like that. So they can't camp the base of your tower.
And
Um,
that's the other interesting thing here is if you go for the middle, you are leaving all your wood lines exposed to potential archers.
I'm
So
really curious.
big trade-off.
What is the trade-off here? Because there's so much food in the middle, you don't really want to ignore it. But on the other hand, if you focus the middle, will you lose access control over your resources on the outside, or is it better
You,
to make sure your resources on the outside are controlled, but give your opponent all of this food? I don't really know what the right answer is.
the biggest problem I see here is that you go middle and you win middle, and then you get 10 archers walking around controlling your golds and your wood, and now you're gonna is stuck in that awkward situation where you have to take wood from the middle as well. And I mean, it's possible, but there's not that many trees. I can't tell if these are 100 wood trees or not from here in the middle, but I can't imagine it even matters if they're 150 or whatever. So I can see an argument for both, really. Because great, you have all the food in the world, but if the only thing that you can make is scouts, an opponent has archers and spears, and you already used your wood for a tower, you can't defend anymore. You can't defend your outside. But yeah, maybe endless scouts is the play here. If you're able to secure some of the middle, endless scout spears. This looks like one of the more aggressive maps simply because of the like how close they spawn to each other, though.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Archers would be really quick to walk around the whole eco. I don't think we see a lot of late games here, simply because of how many shorefish there are. I don't know if you can place TCs on this terrain in the middle, though. That's another.
I think you can. Let's check. Yeah, as long as it's not blocked by a shorefish, you can town center the middle
Oh,
of the
that's
map.
sick. Yeah,
Yeah, this could be a
yeah.
lot of fun to see how it plays out.
And this looks like a lot of shorefish, but at the end of the day, when you place a mill, you basically get access to like 3 or 4, and then afterwards they have to walk. Your villagers have to walk really far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as insane as it seems. Unless you're Japanese, Japanese would be really awesome in this map.
Okay.
You know, we'll probably see a lot of vill fighting here if this map gets picked over these shorefish, vill fighting and early feudal fighting with the militia towers and stuff like that. And maybe you go Mongols and just go. There's only. Oh no, there's still 2 boar. Maybe you go Mongols, just get all the boar super quick. Go like a 18 pop, just straight archers. That can also work.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's
Critters.
much hunt except for the 2 boar.
Yeah, but even that's enough, really. I mean, I don't think there's they removed the Hindustani bonus the from Indians. I suppose they're not even Indians anymore. The shorefish bonus, so that's not no longer an option as much. But I think Japanese would probably be the best civ here, and other civs like Malay and Italians just for a quicker uptime, and Mongols.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about this map before we move on to the next?
No, no, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how much this box of hippo dung out here gets played. All
I
right.
don't think it does. That's the thing. That was my only like regret is that I don't think it's going to be effective at all. Just simply because there's nothing on the dung, and I mean the only thing you can place is farms, right? But those farms would be so out in the open when there's all this shorefish in the middle. I don't think that gets used even with the 10% bonus.
The next map is Tower at Temple by Q Phillip. So this is Q Phillip's main map. This is the one that he spent the most time on. What do we think?
I like the design. I like how it forces you to think, have like which gives you so many options. Because not only do you have all the shorefish on the outside, and you also have all the shorefish stacks next to your base. So it's really a matter of like, do you really want to go to the outside to try to get to that shorefish, or not? Probably not. And I think we start with two. What are these huts or are these Gaia tents?
These are unconvertible Gaia tents. It's supposed to represent the pilgrimage to the Tower at Temple. So the pilgrims have to
Ah,
have something to stay in when they're visiting the temple. They can't just be lying around on, anywhere. It's a temple.
makes sense.
So,
And is the temple the pyramid or is the temple the destructed uh, the
uh, I
the three
think,
temples?
I think it's kind of part of a temple complex, this whole
I see.
Acropolis. Got a couple pyramids, a couple ruined ancient buildings, and this Nubian pyramid too, and extra gold and stone. And it might even be this entire structure that's elevated is like a great pyramid. It's
But
man-made.
man, chopping through to there is gonna take forever, because you got it's far away from your base. You have to chop through 2 layers of trees, and let's be honest, by the time that players get out there, they're probably going to be already in Castle Age, because that's not the first wood line you want to go for. It's not even the second or third wood line you really want to go for here.
I
It
gotta
seems like
back out of my
yeah,
editor array and go back in. I'm sorry, because it does not have nearly as many trees as I remember it having. But you're saying that there is
it's
a boundary of trees, right, between...
it's 2 layers. Yeah, it's two
Okay,
layers of trees. But the thing is, it's not even about the 2 layers of trees as much, because that will only take 2 or 3 minutes to cut through. It's just that the trees are far away from where you
here
want
we
to
go.
cut. I forget what the map was. I think it was Chaos Pit, the one where you have like 3 layers of trees that you have to cut through. But in that one, players usually get through those trees pretty quickly since it's a fat wood line that you can take as your first wood line. Here, you have better wood lines at home, so we probably won't see players trying to cut out too early, especially considering there's so much gold on the map anyway. It's just, I think, more than Arabia, even gold in the middle. So I don't think we'll see the pilgrimage to the temple uh, come into play too often if this map gets picked. But I love how close the TCs are. This will definitely be a really fun, aggressive map to watch. I don't think anybody cuts down to the outside shorefish either. Kind of for the same reason. You got nice wood lines at home and nice ponds at home for you to mill anyway. Of three shorefish, it'll be hard to justify dropping a lumber camp on a really skinny wood line in the south
Mm-hmm.
to just try to cut through to the shorefish. I think we'll, as creative as this map is, I don't think we'll, if it gets picked, that we'll see a lot of these strategies come into play. at least the shortfish strategy or the extra gold strategy. So the extra gold is nice for a super late game, but look how much gold there is normally anyway.
Yeah, Q Philip and I talked about this. He did try to make this a little bit more accessible, and the players actually started out closer to the Nile, and he moved them toward the temple, I think, because he wanted them to go for the temple a little bit more. We did a stream where we play tested this 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
but
I I think if you actually, I think I like them being the town center closer to the Nile because you go for these separate, you go for the temple later in the game, right? That's kind of the idea. It's more of like a late castle, early imp sort of deal when you're starting to run out of gold, and you're trying to go for the shortfish really early on in the game if somebody tries to cut through.
mhm.
So I can see it's kind of funny because I think keeping the TC closer to the Nile might actually even be make it easier for players to get to the temple later, just simply because they have it makes it easier to get to Castle H. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's times to cut through in both cases, and the times are very different. You're trying to get to the shortfish in Dark Age, and you're trying to get to the gold to the temple in Imp.
So the other thing I can speak to is I asked Q Philip about why the double layer of these palm trees,
Yeah.
and he explained that it's a double layer, and actually the terrain in between the palm trees is unwallable. So the idea was that as long as you have access to Taweret Temple, your opponent has access to your base. So if you cut through these trees here, and your opponent has also cut through these trees here, and both of you, and you've cut through the second layer, and he's cut through the second layer, or even if he hasn't, if you're sending units to Taweret Temple, he will be able to come across this unbuildable terrain and enter your base, assuming that you don't have a gate or something like that up here. So
Yeah.
that was the philosophy behind the double layer. I don't know if he's modified the amount of wood stored in these trees. I'd have to ask him to remind me. Maybe he's modified the wood stored in the trees, decreased it, or maybe increased it, I don't know, to affect the rate at which it's cut through. But I think this is going to play out a lot like Arabia. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
No, I agree
He
with
said
you.
he said he added a lot more shorefish because of the lack of deer and berries.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah, I do not see people liking this map too much in a super hyper competitive setting, but I think it's one of the more creative maps and one of the more visually appealing maps. And it has kind of a story behind it where, you got both your Nile, your source of water, and your temple, you're worshiping the gods, or I forget how you introduced this map exactly.
Taweret, the hippo goddess, the Egyptian hippo goddess.
Yeah.
All right. Anything
That's
more we
cool.
want to say on this map before we look at the next one, Ray?
No, that's about it. I like the relics, or not the relics. Sorry, the relics by the temple as well.
Yeah, I
I
thought
think
that
those are the
was
only places where the relics are.
a little controversial, because if your opponent gets up here and he secures all this gold, does he really need the relics too?
If anything, yeah, I guess you're right. First, I was gonna say maybe even put in even more relics to make it make more sense to go there in early castle, but I think you're right. Maybe you don't, since this would probably, what we'll probably see on this map. We'll probably see TCs on the Nile. If it gets to Council Age, and we'll see extra TCs dropping there, because I can see like one TC covering the wood line, and also being able to take the shorefish right after the person cuts through the wood line. That
Yep.
could be pretty neat.
Save you some wood so you don't have to build the first few farms.
Lumber camp and a mill, yeah. I think this Nile part was definitely for the extra TCs and not early Dark Age, like I said initially. Because there's no way anybody's cutting through one layer of trees and then building mills when you have perfectly good shorefish at home. Yeah, really cool. And let's get to the next one.
All right,
Got
then
how
the
many?
next one is
5 more, 6 more.
yep, the next one is the Hip O by Danger Duck. So
Yeah.
This one, he's
Anything
got a big O in the middle. It looks a lot like Arenaception. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yeah,
map. I think the Mad Catter
indeed.
made it.
We played Arenaception in that same tournament as I was talking before.
Mm-hmm.
The the custom Civ tournament where your map was featured as well. So, do you have your ostriches spawn on top of the golds as well, or is that just something that I'm seeing?
I have my ostriches on the fruit bushes.
Interesting. What about the golds in the middle?
Golds.
Are
Oh,
those?
I've got zebras on the golds in the middle, which is interesting. A mixed food
Yeah.
source. I don't know if
So
these zebra walk off of the gold, or if they're just there and you need to mine the gold to get to the zebras. It's kind of
so
interesting.
the difference in Arenaception is that you at least you have gates. You don't have any gates. You have to
Yeah,
delete part of your wall to get to the outside.
Emu
Um,
Warrior's right. No gates. Uh-oh.
I'm gonna
Interesting.
be honest. I don't think this map is gonna get picked, but I think it's a cool concept. I like the idea of the fact that you're safe at home, but if you want to get extra resources from docks, you have to kind of make a little bit of a sacrifice and venture out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as this map suffers from what it like I was talking before, like single strategy comes down to who has the better late game civ. Because this is you can't even tower this. I mean, you can, but it's an uphill battle, quite literally.
Yes, literally.
Um, and it's just there's no weak spots in people's bases. This is going to be either Fast Imp or FC Boom, and I don't even think the fish on the outside are going to, you know, we're going to see a lot of people taking those that much simply because they have only three deep fish in them.
Yeah, and
I could probably see maybe some water play. Maybe you try to actually sneak and scout your opponent's legs here too.
you know what?
But it's
You know what could make this map a lot better, actually? I think this is a great concept, but it's so easy to just delete a wall segment back here and then walk a villager out, build a dock, and then walk back in and build a house behind it, right?
yeah,
What's your opponent going to
yeah,
do? Go man-at-arms and walk all the way around the map to the back of your base to pressure that one house?
yeah.
He's probably not going to do that, right? But what could make this map really cool is if there were a ring of unbuildable terrain right behind your main wall. Or maybe even your main wall was on unbuildable terrain too, so that if you
Yeah,
deleted it, you couldn't rebuild it. And that's where it could get interesting because your opponent might have a window into your base now if you went out and greedily tried to take some outside resources. But right now
I
it
don't think
seems like
that's.
there's no way to punish it.
I don't think even that would save this map because for your opponent to spot that, he'd have to see it early, and then he'd have to make instantly go forward and build a barracks. Basically, if your opponent was already like trying to fast imp or something like that, he sees you delete a piece in the back, he's trying to go scout for that. He has to either play assuming you're gonna do that, or uh, or not at all, since the distance around the outside of the map is pretty far, right? Like even if he goes men at arms, like the amount of time they spend walking around the uh, the into your opponent's base is going to be way too long. There's just no way for early aggression on this map, unfortunately, or even middle aggression.
Yeah,
Maybe
there are some hills in the back, but I mean even still it's mostly downhill from your own base.
maybe having palisade walls everywhere here could be, in addition to what you were saying, might be interesting. Or another great way to prevent people from getting too greedy is adding more resources in the middle that are nice for clicking up early to have players fight over them.
Yeah,
But
there's not a lot of res in the middle. What do you think about the idea of giving players two starting petards
oh,
on
that would
this
be
map?
hilarious.
Um,
Um,
and you don't know when your opponent's going to bust into your base and with his scouts or
yeah,
with his archers.
yeah, that would definitely make it a really fun, I think, community map to play on. I don't think we're gonna see a too serious of a tournament on it. I would love to play a two petard start even with the current walls and the current settings. I think that would be hilarious.
I might yoink this and make some modifications to it and try it out sometime. But
Also, the zebra on the gold. I not a huge fan unless they walk off instantly. I don't think they do though. I think they're stuck there
I,
in the middle. It's just it just looks funny, I guess. Interesting idea though. I love the idea with lakes on the outside. Maybe we need just a lake on the inside with a lot of deep fish, so people are incentivized to delete their forward walls. It's kind of like on arenaception. You don't see a lot of people do aggression from the outside arena because it's just so far away. You mostly see aggression on arenaception through the middle.
yep, because monks are slow. All right, you ready to talk about the next map, Ray? It's the Hip O's by Danger Duck. So, same author, but it's multiple O's.
He really likes to put his zebra into his berry bushes.
Yeah, I saw that. That's interesting. Mill your zebras, I guess.
And I noticed he wasn't using the trigger for extra villager spawn. He was doing it the other way, and all 9 are placed at the very beginning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of the maps use that trigger because it was just posted as code from Zetnus. This actually may have been submitted before Zetnus posted that guidance on how to
Okay.
achieve it. If it wasn't posted before, it was posted like shortly after, where he wouldn't have had time to implement it. The 9 villager spawn is not. It's not like a big deal. Like you can
Yeah, you can
easily
easily
modify a map to
add that
have
in
it.
quickly. Yeah, I'm more interested in why I have a spawn right now where the berry patch for one of the players is split up into 2 uh, berry patches. It's like
Really?
two tiles of 2 berries. It looks really funky.
And it's just
And
for one player?
yes, but they're close enough for where 1 mil can cover them. It's not a huge
Oh,
deal.
okay.
I just think that's it's pretty funny how they're separated.
Maybe they have loose grouping or something. Usually berries are grouped tightly, so they all have to be touching.
Ah, I see.
But
Okay, yeah, that must be it.
maybe they have the same kind of grouping that like is usually applied to deer or sheep, where they're kind of like a little further apart.
I'm noticing the extra berries all over the map, and I think that's what it is. Because I'm looking at the extra berries, and occasionally I see them not grouped as well. They're like 1 or 2 tiles apart. Deer in those as well. There are markets in the corners here. I think it's interesting. Uh, I would love to see more of that. I haven't seen many 1v1s utilize that. I don't know if that would ever come into play. But I like the concept of not having a trash war at the end of the game. I think it's a great way to prevent super long games. I know the Empire Wars team was not the Empire Wars team, but Red Bull had a timer of like 1.5 hours or whatever it was for their games. And although that timer was rarely ever reached, I think an easier way to prevent stalemates is just the market in the corner system here. At least until there's a meta developed around it.
Yeah, look, I've heard both sides. I heard people complaining, oh, the game lasts too long because there are too many resources, so we need to have fewer golds on the map. And then now they've added more golds, and now people are going to say, well, the game ends more quickly because whoever has an advantage on gold just makes more gold units and wins.
I think trade is actually the perfect answer because trade is not as safe as normal golds, right? Trade is such an investment so that it also leaves you vulnerable. And I think it ends games one way or another. Either you end up getting safe trade and managing to defend it well, or uh, or I guess you get raided, or it gets raided and then you die. So I think actually adding trade is, or adding markets is a little bit healthier than adding massive gold piles all over the map. This game has it's interesting because you see kind of both. You see these three centers for resources. This map, three places where a castle could be really beneficial. But I like how the ponds in the back are walkable through. I don't know if you can place a mill there. I don't.
No,
If you can't, okay, you cannot.
it's old school shallows.
Because I think if you could, especially for these tighter spawns of deep fish groupings, we would just see people place a mill and not bother with fishing ships. Although I guess you kind of need your mill for your berry bushes / zebra, so maybe not.
Yeah,
Either way,
the write up says that he's intentionally given a limited number of resources to encourage the players to expand out to different areas. I was kind of hoping these
yeah,
player spawn locations would be a little bit more random. Um, maybe the O's would be kind of randomized, but it looks like they're sort of fixed, which is okay, I suppose. Um,
every O starts with a relic too. I see.
yep. These,
Yeah, this is gonna be pretty close to Arabia, I think. But the O in the middle is gonna prevent people from being able to be too aggressive. Because from what I see, you can wall off your O with like 2 or 3 wall tiles, and then your enemy has to walk all the way around.
uh, I'm looking at it a little bit differently here. I'm looking at it as whoever gets to this O and towers most of the neutral stone on the map first has a big food advantage too. Seems like
Oh, I didn't think about it that way. Yeah.
he wants to kind of have more patches in this circle, so that because right now I'm looking at a generation where there's a gap here, and I think blue could get in easily, but I don't know if red could have the same access to these resources. There might be a gap, and I just might need to enable small trees or cubes or right-click
There,
it.
there,
But he
there are gaps.
a little bit.
There's like you don't need. There's like 3 gaps per player, I would say. So maybe you're right. Maybe you send villagers forward and try to wall your villagers in. Actually, that's probably what you do. You send 4 villagers forward and try to wall your opponent's gaps in, so that your opponent can no longer come inside, and then you have all the um, safe shore fish you can take.
I don't
But me,
know how doing that compares to coming out and securing these golds. It seems like these golds would be harder to secure because there's more gaps and they're further away. And of
and
course,
also the
there's the
ghosts
safe
don't have any
food.
shore fish with them, right? That's the other
Hmm.
big thing. I'm just testing this out really quick. Yes, there are small holes that you can get through to get to the middle, so you don't have to cut anything. Yeah, that's probably how I'd play this then. If I was doing it, just secure myself a really nice base in the middle to constantly be able to eat those box turtles.
Hear that, guys?
Any
I
thoughts?
gave Ray an idea about how to play a map competitively. I think I can retire from the 1v1 ranked queue now.
Yeah, and
um,
there's these ostriches too. That would be so strong. Once again, I don't think there's going to be a map that we see in the voted in just because of how the potential for memes is a little bit one-sided, unfortunately. Maybe with some changes though, that could be different.
yeah, I like this map better than his other submission, the hip O. Seems like there's more
Yeah,
strategic variety on this map. He probably put a little bit more was able to put a little more time into this one. It looks good.
but literally now that you mentioned it, like walking to the middle, sending like 5 villagers forward from the start, just walling in every single place your opponent can get in, and having all this free fish, free ostriches, and later stone seems like it would be really strong.
And maybe they'll be fighting over it. Who knows, Ray? Who knows? Maybe they'll both do it.
True.
And then
Anyway, next one.
we got to make sure we get through all of them.
Yeah,
All right.
I have to play Ring of Fire in 40 minutes.
This is the hippo B. Let's take a look.
What
Oh,
were your submissions?
the hippo by Bazadrone. So look at this one, Ray. Bazadrone
That
took the
yes,
the image of the hippo from Nilly's stream and he turned it into a random map script. I think this looks really good personally. I would
this
play
looks
this one all
awesome.
day. All day.
I love this one. Uh, it's just visually so appealing. That's the one where I was talking about the first one. It's like in the very beginning of the stream, I was saying that there's a lot of creativity here. This is the one where I was thinking about. Uh, I only know Bazzy Drone for Bazzy Random, I think, which is
Hmm.
a hilarious hyper random like script. And another thing I think that's interesting here is that the I forget what the dog's name is. Um, you see how we have flying dogs everywhere?
Oh, the Stormy dog?
Stormy, right? Stormy.
Yes.
How Stormy's flying so low? So does this mean we're like at max elevation or something, or does
I
Stormy always fly this way?
No, I don't think so. Maybe he modified Stormy's statistics somehow so that Stormy would like look like he was just going to crash through your gate.
Yeah,
Um, just kind of funny. Um, it looks like the player start is slightly random, from what I can tell. And again, when you've got a big image in the middle of the map and you've got all these lands, traditional create player lands kind of suffers. It has a hard time placing player lands, but it looks like he made it work here. Large arena, from the look of it, maybe a little bit smaller space in the middle. Two big golds. How do you think this one plays out? Is this just like Arena Ray, or is there going to be something different about this that we wouldn't see in normal Arena?
I think this is old school arena, where or normally in arena you have more wall to defend. Here it's a little bit less. I think we'd see a lot of smushes, and I think that this plays exactly like arena. It has the same 5 relics as arena does. I don't know if the walls have as much HP, and I don't know if we'll see too many trushers here because of the fact that the players are a little further away from each other. But I think for all purposes, this could be considered just normal arena.
Okay. Um, a little less snowbally, or maybe more snowbally. Seems like there's more
Definitely,
resources in one place.
definitely more snowbally, but uh, there's no extra golds for the player that's defending that got either towered in or
Mm-hmm.
castled in. No place to expand because, but at the same time, they have bigger golds inside their bases, right?
Yep.
Uh, Yeah, that's. I don't know if I like that the humongous gold piles too much because on arena it's already pretty snowbally as it is usually, and here it just limits the defending players' options even more. But hey, at least they have one big safe gold at home. I'm not sure if it always spawns in the back or if that's just the.
I don't know. It's a good question. I have to do a few more generations and study it. Looks like that is the case, though, where the smaller gold is the forward-ish one. Oh, okay, yeah, the
Yeah,
smaller gold is the
yeah, yeah.
forward-ish one.
Which
So,
which does make a big difference because if you always have a safe gold and a more or less safe stone, then that does make towering a little bit not as strong, and early castle fast in progression not as strong.
hmm
So I guess that's one difference from arena. But yeah, we'll see. I think the map design is really pretty.
yeah,
Uh,
this is cute. Nilly said he was actually expecting a lot of maps like this, but this is the only one that we saw where the Nilly logo was transformed into a map. As an arena clown, I would love to see this sort of thing in the main event. I don't know if they'll include it though. I mean, they might include it if they wanted to have arena in the map pool. I mean, why not use this, right? There's no real
yeah,
disadvantage. Plus, you get
yeah,
Nilly's theme, so I mean, it's smart for Bazzy Drown to submit this.
yeah. Potentially, I mean, if they did want a main arena and the pool, they're not happy with this. I think with a couple more changes to kind of it could you know it could become arena if their issue is with the main goals in the middle and stuff like that. The goals don't have to be in the eyes,
Hmm.
and they don't have to be concentrated all on half a screen. It's just kind of a little bit of a added flair.
Relics are pretty fair too, so that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
All right, you ready to talk about the next one?
Let's see it.
It
Oh
is
Jesus,
Hippo
this one.
Norse Lands. Let's go. This one was made by a new scripter called Doc Maggie. He is Croatian. He's a really good guy. He's also a developer, so he knows all about coding. What do we think, Ray?
This is I think the craziest one I've seen so far. I You're definitely going to see docks from either player here. It looks like it's really easy to get behind your own wood line and very safe fish. I don't think there's ever going to be any sort of aggression on this map. Early aggression. Maybe only scouts, but even so, it's so easy to wall your side of the map.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think this is a really cool community map, but a map that we probably will not see in this tournament just because of how out there it is. Um, because there's no way to cause feudal aggression besides scouts, because you have all these dudes in the middle, and it's relatively easy to wall. You have safe fish, which competitive players don't like very much, since fish boom is already very strong. So here, I mean, if this was played at a high level, we'd just see everybody walling fish boom, their hearts out. And what you do is you send one villager forward, and then build the dock behind the villager, so the villager can still keep walking forward and make more docks, and then just put everybody to wood.
Now,
So
what about
yeah,
these hostile Gaia units in the center that might attack your
they
villager, though? They're basically like wolves, but better. Well,
yeah in the
actually, they'll give
center.
up. They're wolves, but they give up. But they're probably a little bit stronger. T-Bomber says
Um,
hippos are the most ferocious of the animals in Africa. That is true. Of all the animals that people are killed by in Africa, I think hippos hold the record for killing the most people. They're kind of
I
mean. All right, sorry, Ray. I asked you a question. I was just wanted to
no
respond to T-Bomber's statement about hippos. He's absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Gaia units. I think this map, uh, just they limit anybody going for any sort of feudal stuff as well, right? You can't really go archers because they're gonna get wrecked by these berserks. The berserks are gonna catch up to them. Sure, they might even leave the archers alone after they kill like one or two, but it would be scary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One thing that I would note is that there is a way to get to your opponent's fish, but it would involve like baiting the Gaia units with a scout or something, and then running a villager across. There is a little hole that you can go walk through to access the opponent's pond. If you see that next to the hippo eyes.
Next to the hippo's eyes.
Oh, you don't see it because you don't have small trees. Okay, but yes, there is a
Mmm.
little gap. There is a little gap north of the hippo's eyes and south of the hippo's eyes where
Near the
you
ears,
can
maybe?
get to.
Right about here?
Let me see. Yeah, yeah, around the ears.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
agree, though. Basically, you got to look at these neutral Gaia units as super wolves. And it could work. I've done it before in the King of Ireland map pack for defending like a neutral resource somewhere. But when they're an obstacle between you and your opponent, it's almost like putting a wall of trees here instead,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yep,
That's how you got to look at it. This is basically worth 4 or 5 trees or something like that, because
yeah,
players are going to try to go around it because they don't want to take free damage because they want to do the damage to their opponent, right? And they want
right,
to get the maximum advantage. And they want to hope that their opponent is the one that runs into these Gaia units. Um,
yeah. But I love the creativity. I love the way the map looks and the mini map. But this one's this one's not gonna make it in. It'd be a cool map to play community tournaments on though.
yep.
But I can tell you from the start that there's only one strategy, and that's slight wall, because you don't even need to really fully wall. I'm not sure if these Gaia units they're not going to be able to catch up to scouts. So the only your only fear as the defending or the player with 20 fish is that you need a you might get hit by scouts, but that's a very easy thing to solve. You just wall in front, then go 20 fish boom into either full Castle Age Knights, or you can fast imp at that point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
even if the opposing player tries to sneak a villager through all these Gaia units and somehow makes it and builds like 2 docks in the back, you probably have 3 of your own docks, and you'll be able to defend your fish pretty well. So, not a very competitive map, but a cool looking one for sure.
It's fun, and I think that there could be some slight modifications that could be done to it to make it to give it more strategic variety. Like what if Doc Maggie could find a way to put a thin layer of unbuildable rock terrain around these forests so that you cannot wall to your dock or something. or maybe the forests
Then
have more openings or
th-
patches.
then we'll see the exact same thing, but with spears. The what this comes down to is too much free fish in the back, and there's no way for your opponent to punish that. That's what really kills this map in a competitive setting. Um,
Hmm.
there's no way right now for your opponent to easily harass your fish.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a way to get over there without. He'd have to have maybe a thin stretch of water or something like that up here on top, but I don't know. I don't know, Ray.
I think this
It's
is
a
one of
fun
those
map.
maps where you just accept there's nothing to do to make it competitive, but it is cool.
I'm an eternal optimist here. I'm always trying to
I hear you. I
think of
hear
a
you.
way. Because I used to submit maps like these for map contests,
Yeah,
so that's
and
why I'm always
I
thinking
mean
about it.
they're cool maps, and you want people to play them in some sort of tournaments. I'm just saying that like from I think a certain level, you just take one look at the map and you're like, there's one optimal strategy, and there's no second strategy that can be even closely compared to the first one, right?
So we got this other map from Doc Maggie. He's a new map scripter, and this one is called the Hippo Watering Hole,
It's
I
hilarious.
believe.
So many hippos in the middle.
Well, it's the closest thing that we can do to the hippo, right? Which is the rhino. And he even says that in the write-up. He put rhinos in because he didn't have a hippo unit to put in, but he would have put a hippo in here if he could have.
Somebody should have made a hippo mod, and now it's a pain to make all these units by hand, but it would be funny to replace all the rhinos with hippos.
I think they used to have one back in the Voobly days or something like that.
There was a King
Um,
of the Hippo tournament which replaced the monument with a hippo. I don't remember if they ever replaced the boar or rhino with hippos though. In the Voobly
okay.
days.
So what do we think about this one, Ray?
I mean, it's kind of.
Ooh,
Well,
man.
we'd probably see demos here, to be honest. Or you know what? No, we'd probably just see galleys. We'd probably just see the same as before. Um, this would be a race to feudal and full water fight. So probably the only viable civ here is Mongols, because you don't even need any of your sheep. You take like 4 rhinos from the middle. There's no reason to lame. Your opponent has plenty of his own. Uh, you go up, you make fish, and you full galley fight, and there's not much that can stop you because the
So
water in the middle is so big that archers are not getting through here. Scouts good, but there's an easy, quick wall for scouts for your woodline, and you're completely safe.
I don't know, Ray. It seems like if somebody wanted to go archers, they could just walk around here, and unless you think that they're gonna wall off every single little gap between the baobabs.
No,
It
no,
seems
no,
like it's
no
hard to
walling,
wall.
no walling. I think if they started walking around the whole lake with archers, by the time the archers get inside your base, um, it'll be it will take some time. But that's not even you make one tower, you'd be pretty safe. I think the advantage from the fish here is this is too big to go archers on. Basically, if you drop 2 ranges or 1 range or whatever it is, it's such an investment that you're basically giving up water entirely.
So you think that
Um,
the presence of this water simply just replaces the need to go archers or replaces the viability of archers because
I think so.
there are too many resources on it.
I mean, we see a lot of landings on maps like Team Islands, right, where a player gives up their water or part of it in return for landing. But the reason that works well is because on Team Islands you can dock the back, and your fish are going to survive for some time prior to getting killed. On maps like these, though, I think it's just going to be either scouts or water fight. Scouts or water fight. Those are the only two viable
Can't
strategies.
give it up. I don't know if this fish has the standard amount of resources in it from normal. Maybe this fish has less food in it, which would make the water less appealing. But it's still a large area of the map. It's still
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of map control. Like if you
That's
have
the big
water
thing.
control, you know that your opponent's not coming for you through this direction.
Yeah, and the other thing is just scouting. Like your fishing ships are essentially outposts, which people sometimes don't think about it that way. But you get early warning of anything that's coming your way. And if your opponent goes archers, they'll have to walk all the way around because archers against galleys is massacre for the archers. Um,
So what do we
yeah,
think about these the neutral golds out here? It looks like a third sort of land area was created with some Gaia huts and some neutral gold. Does this see any action in the game, or you think
uh,
they're all just
well,
going to make a beeline for this lake here?
they kind of look like homeless encampments. These little these little things like kind of reminds me of Washington D.C. Um,
Oof,
but I'm from around there. I can
you
see
can
that.
make fun of the area,
Anyway,
yeah.
but yeah, it's. I don't think it comes down to those at the end of the day because we have enough resources at home, and I think this is one of those steamroll water maps ended in or early castle, late feudal sort of deals. Because if you start getting an advantage and if you just start spamming more scouts, if you have the water and you spam enough scouts, you could probably like 3 stable scouts here pretty easily. Honestly, with how many rhinos there are, I might, if I was the Mongol player, I might just skip the duck entirely and just go like 16 pop or 17 pop up and just keep making scouts with all these extra never go, fish or farm just with the amount of crazy amount of food that you get from these rhinos.
Now, I think it's somewhat easy to put the rhinos on defensive stance. Do you think that matters, or do you think players just build them like a mill in between these two rhinos and kind of take the rhinos, but maybe a little bit inefficiently?
Oh, so the rhinos essentially go back. Yeah,
It's
that would make it
possible.
more
That
interesting.
might help the
Yeah,
map out to
yeah,
put the
yeah, for
rhinos
sure.
on defensive
That
stance.
that changes the game entirely. That I think would pretty much solve the issue of this being a two strategy map because then we'd have to fight over the middle. Um, there's plenty of maps like that where with a lot of shore fish in the middle. We probably see a lot more militia and men at arms then, uh, because everybody would then send 10 villagers to the middle to build mills and stuff like that, which would be pretty cool.
Now let me check one more thing, which I wanted to ask you about.
But this is a Mongols only map, and that's one thing I think some tournaments are trying to avoid having a map
Yep,
where only one civ is viable.
absolutely, because maps should be unpredictable, right? You shouldn't be able to predict based on whoever happened to get Mongols for that map who's going to win.
Yeah.
Should have a yeah. So you cannot walk this. What if this were walkable? What if this whole lake you could just walk through?
Wait, you're telling me that's not even walkable? This whole time I was assuming you could walk over it.
Oh,
Um,
all right.
that's funny, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it changes anything. The archers are still not can't walk through it, and the scouts. So in that case, I take some of what I said back in terms of scouts being early scouts being super viable. Uh, yeah, since this is not walkable, and early scouts would have to wait a little bit as well. It would just be a complete water fight, and then maybe scouts, because scouts would have a long way to walk over here as well. But if this was walkable, then wouldn't change much, I think, in terms of the play. When it's not walkable, it's just a little bit more water aggression friendly, and when it's walkable, it's a little bit more scouts friendly. But still, those are the only two strategies, and Mongols still dominate. Um, anyway, let's take a look at the last one.
Yep. So the last
This
one
is
is The Hippo by
Hazimi.
Hazimi.
Hazimi. I remember Hazimi from making a lot of 290 maps, and I remember him like making all these colorful maps with like different terrains, so the mini map looks cool. I'm a big fan of the mini map design on this one, just the way it looks.
It does look fun. Look at how they have to chop through to get to the fish, though. That is interesting
Yeah,
to me. They
it
certainly
is
will
interesting.
want the fish. But
Yeah, but
does the
you
fish
won't
even
really.
get used now if they have to chop through to get to it? Like, if you're in the position where you can chop through this, it means that you're probably late feudal, early castle age. What
Yeah,
difference does the fish make anymore?
I think it makes a pretty big difference still. I think people still dock here, and if they drop a lumber camp early on in one of the next to one of the teeth, it's a really safe lumber camp. You can wall it off from the other side. Um, I guess the only thing with that is that your opponent would see it because they have houses that can see everything around you in the teeth of your enemy, right?
Yeah, I noticed that. That's kind of interesting that your opponent has units that are so close to you watching everything you're doing.
Yeah, but how are you going to even break through here? I think just one layer of walls will be enough, or two layers of walls. I think this is a very FC friendly map.
Well, I don't know. There are a lot of resources that are far away. Like if you went FC and your opponent didn't, wouldn't you be forfeiting a lot of this gold and such? I mean, maybe it doesn't matter because you get that second town center down really quick, or maybe you've chopped through and then you're out here
Oh,
picking up relics and fish. I don't know.
right. I completely didn't lost track of the gold. Yeah, that's a good motivation to get out into the middle. Also, another thing is that there's absolutely no stone until you get to the outside. And I kind of like that. So that means that if players want to drop a castle to secure the gold in the middle, they would have to buy it, and that's a huge investment.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the chances though that the players just wall straight across here?
And I
Just
think that's
like
pretty
just
high. I mean, you secure your own gold. It's not that many tiles. Probably you could use the gold. This is one case where you can use some of the golds as part of your wall and not get punished for it, since there's plenty of other ones. So it's not a huge commitment. I honestly that's probably what I like the most because you wall this way, and afterwards, if your enemy breaks through, you can also wall behind. So yeah, very good chances. The fact that the deer are in the middle, um, at least on my spawn, there's a deer patch for one player and no deer patch for the other. That's kind of
uh-oh.
a little bit
Oops.
uneven here.
T-Bomber asks, do you go Celts to chop through faster? Ray, what do you think about Celts on this map?
It'd also be strong. I don't think that chopping through faster would be even that huge of a deal. But I think Celts would be a strong civ just for their siege and their overall. Um, yeah, because this is going to be a map where all the aggression is going to come from one direction. So stuff like monk siege push would be really really nice, since
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get flanked or anything, and you probably have very good vision of your opponent's army.
Yeah,
So
and
this
the
would be a pretty aggressive map.
the
Yeah,
teeth give you an option, right? You don't have to chop to the outside if you don't want to. If you want to drop your lumber camp on the teeth and try to like wall off and secure a gold or two and go FC, you might be able to make that work with a monk push through the center. But I guess if your
yeah.
opponent had cut to the outside, he would have some place to flee to, although the building options and resource options are not that great out there, so I don't know.
I think if you lose your main TC, you're kind of dead, because if you lose the main area, you don't have gold for the rest of the map, and you have to sell stone. I do see
Yeah, that's
players
true.
trying. If I would play this, I think I would wall and try to FC and place my first lumber camp to try to cut through to the outside. But yeah, I think I placed my first lumber camp in one of the to the right or left or on the outside of one of the teeth to try to cut through. And
Over
then
here, it's a pretty forward lumber camp, though. But you could maybe
so
tower it, cut through. You could secure
uh,
some more stone, maybe.
even more inside in one of the teeth. I'd want to put it closer to the bottom of the or sorry, closer to the bottom of the right gum, I suppose, or left gum.
Back in
And give
here.
us a little nook. Yeah, because this way, if I wall the middle and they break through with like archers or whatever, I can wall it a second layer uh, around the tooth, so that it takes them longer to get through. And I think by the time that they get through, you'll probably have a cut to the outside. So then you're pretty safe by the time they get through with archers or anything like that. I like the idea of having a little bit of outposts on your enemy's town, though. These areas outside the teeth are also going to be great to tower if anybody gets there, because
Oh,
that
yeah,
basically
true.
denies a lot of wood. But
Because
at the end of the day, I think this is still very FC friendly, very wall FC esque.
yeah, if your opponent is Celts or something and they chop through first and they can come over here maybe if they somehow know where your wood line is, they can tower it pretty easily. and then you have to go and chop somewhere else, and then you maybe never can get out while your opponent has access. So that is kind of
That's
a
a bit of a
risk.
risk because you don't know which. I guess you do know which side your opponent is taking wood on because you have your
Outposts.
uh, outposts. Yeah, yeah. Um, this would be an interesting 1v1 map. I'd like to see how it will play out, but I think once it plays out once or twice, it would play out like that every single time. So I don't think this one was going to be a favorite either. Um, because I do see like there are several strategies. There's one the instant walling, another one is going archers, but I'm pretty sure after playing this once or twice, and the third one I guess is going for the fish and trying to get a massive fish boom. But I think after playing this a couple times, the pros would figure out what's the best one of those three,
What a,
and just go for that every single
what
time.
about a lightning Mongol 17 pop scouts while your opponent out of all of his gold? Is that viable,
I don't
or do you don't think that
I
could?
don't think that's viable. It just gets walled out, and Ghost Scouts never get through. I I think you and archers here might be better. Men at arm archers. I think scouts just get a lot of investment and easy to wall out. Although I'm saying this, but if you start walling the middle, scouts are pretty good at killing Dark Age walls. So it would be kind of annoying to wall behind it constantly.
I just meant like make the scouts really, really early and take a massive amount of map control. Maybe so much map control that your opponent doesn't have access to safe gold anymore. But maybe
I'd
he could
I'd
still
be
wall you out.
I'd be walling this like minute or villager 15 or something, walling the or maybe even earlier, because you want to not get rushed here.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's like if you wall using the gold tiles in the middle, there's probably only like 10 tiles that you need to wall, maybe 13, and place a couple houses. And the rest is pretty much free. And at that point, scouts are just feel like a little bit of a waste.
Yeah, like it Scout, it's hard to justify scouts when you have a box, right? Scouts don't really do
Yeah, yeah,
boxes very well.
yeah,
That's not
yeah.
their style because you're paying for mobility that you can't really use if you put the scouts in a box.
But Hazemi likes these like nice boxy safe maps. I've seen this before, and they're really nice for community games, I think, as well.
Yep,
Um,
me too.
is this one? I would like to see this one play out like once or twice, but I think like I said, once people figure it out, it's going to be the same thing over and over again. But as of right now, I don't know which one. Right, like unlike some of these other maps, I don't know which strategy would instantly win because the fish, like you said, are just outside of reach, and uh, it's not like you have a huge Dark Age boost here. And the fact that there's no stone either, it makes it more interesting as well.
Our
Were you gonna submit a map?
uh yes, I submitted a couple of maps, but I mostly wanted to talk about the other submissions because I know that we had a lot of maps to go through, and I know that you have another set to play in a few minutes. So I really appreciate you coming on, Ray. Hopefully, maybe some of the map
Thanks for having me.
creators will find the video and maybe they'll be able to make some last minute changes or something to improve their map, or at least think about it and have an argument for why they didn't do a certain thing. But it's always great to hear another perspective, somebody that plays at a pretty high, relatively high level compared to most of the player base, and even some of the scripting community. Figure out what kind of
And
strategies we could see.
and I'm sorry to anybody if I shot on your map. I don't mean it as it's a bad map. I just think that it's the 2K5s are gonna find a way to exploit the minor uh, the minor features of it. I don't think there's a single map in here that can't be in the tournament with enough balancing, except for maybe the one with safe fish.
Oh, the Norseland one.
Yeah,
They
the
all
Norseland
look like
ones.
a lot of they all look like maps that I would want to play, right? It's just
Yes, yes,
like when
yes.
it comes to these high level tournaments, they are very, very careful because they don't want to have some event where somebody doesn't get the civ they need to win on a map and then blames the map. there's a lot of ego at this skill level. So you got to make sure that all your homework's done, right? That you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's and made sure that the maps are the most versatile maps that can accommodate the civ balance in the game and provide all these different options and strategies and comebacks. It's not easy to do.
Yes, the viewer. I mean, since a lot of this tournament is made for the viewers, right? And that's the entertainment of the viewer is a big factor in this. That's why I think even some of these pure water maps don't get a lot of tournaments hosted on them. Not because they're not even so much fun to play, although some people hate water, but it's just that with our current water balance, it makes it hard to spectate them.
Hmm.
It makes them a little bit less exciting. But none of these maps really had um, too much deep fish, so I do like that.
Yep.
That they were all pretty. None of them were uh, Pacific Ocean level of water.
Yep. And that's a good point too. It's not entirely on the random map scripter. Some of it is just baked into the game since day one, right? The galley fire ship and demolition ship and fishing ship, the whole water situation has changed very little in 20 years. And
Yeah,
we kind of
hopefully it
see
does.
the
But
Rome at War mod trying to add a little bit more variety to that.
I love
You know,
that.
there's
I love that.
potential to do a little bit more with that, and maybe if they ever did more content with the game and made water a little bit more complex, we would see more water maps in these competitions. But then again, they don't want to take the risk and upset a bunch of hardcore fans that like the game to be traditional. So,
As a guy that only plays water, and considering they already changed and made fire galleys available in feudal, I completely would not mind more mixes up to water and making it more exciting. Kind of like Rome at War did, although I don't know the balance there too well. But it seems like when you have that many ships, it seems like the counter system is a lot better.
mhm.
Anyway, thanks for inviting me. I'll talk
Yep.
to you later. Catch you
Yeah,
later.
thank you. Yeah, thank you so
Thanks
much
for sharing your maps. Oh,
joining us, Ray.
last question: is there any voting for the maps, or is it just decided by the team hosting?
So I think what is going to happen is Siest and Zetnus and maybe Nili will go through the maps in advance and just make sure that they are playable at a basic level. Probably more Zetnus than the other guys, Zetnus and Siest. That they're playable at a basic level and meet the basic requirements for the contest, which are still at this point loosely defined, but they're getting better at defining their requirements. And then, assuming that they can meet all the requirements that they need, Nilly and his stream will pick the winning map on whenever he does his special stream for it. So I think maybe the stream will vote. I'm not sure. Maybe Nilly will set up a poll, but you're just going to have to watch Nilly's content, which shouldn't be too hard because he's a great guy, um,
Do
and
you know if
participate in the
there's a
poll.
prize?
The prize for the scripting contest that they have advertised is $300 for the winning map, and the map would
Oh,
be
sick.
featured in the main event, which is kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, I hope I get a chance to take a look at your maps, or maybe you could send them to me. I just would be curious. But thanks for your time, and I'll catch you
Yes.
later. See ya.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ray. We're gonna link Ray's Twitch in the description. He's a great guy. You guys should go check him out and try to play with him and give him some love.
All right. Bye.
Yep. See you, Ray. So with that, we've gone through the maps that have been submitted so far for Nilly's Apartment Cup as of yesterday. We have not gone through any submissions that may have been done today. I submitted a couple that were like in the wee early morning hours. I was still working on it. I was so tired. But now is your chance. If you are in chat and you have any scripting questions at all, I'm all yours. I'll do what I can to help you out. If you have any questions, we could bring your script up. We could answer any questions that you might have, help you get certain features that you're looking for. If you just want some perspective similar to what, Ray and I talked about, I would provide my limited, I'm not as great at the game as Ray is, but I'd still provide my thoughts about it if you're just looking for another point of view. because it's very easy when you're making a map script to get tunnel vision and be like, this, and this is what I need to do. And maybe somebody's just like, hey, what about towers? They're totally overpowered on that map. And you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about the towers. And then you maybe change some things so that towers aren't broken, or something to that effect. So if anybody needs any help making some last-minute changes to their map script for Nilly's Apartment Cup, or maybe just even in general too, if you're working on a map script that you don't intend to submit, let me know. I'm going to step away real quick. I'll be right back. Just give me a couple of minutes here. Assuming that folks have questions, we'll be happy to answer those questions. And if not, I'll end the stream, and you guys can consider this an outro video. So, outro. So I'll be right back. I hope that you guys will have some questions because it'll give us more to talk about. I'm really excited for this event, as you can tell. And the verdict is everybody is good to go. Thank you for indulging my quick bio break here. Refilled my water. Looks like there aren't any questions, so we're going to end the stream here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, for consuming the content. I hope you got something out of it. I love doing it. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully once we get up and going with ScriptChat Volume 2, it'll be a little bit more, interactive. People will be here when the content is being created and can ask questions instead of catching up with it later. But maybe that's what most folks prefer. I don't know. But anyway, I hope that you are having a great day. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to end the stream now. Everybody take care, and I hope to see you again soon. Maybe even for a Rome at War stream this afternoon. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you guys later.